Hi, everyone. This is section 9.3 for human growth and development. Let me share my screen. Okay. So this is the next to the last lecture prior to death and dying, and then, of course, the exam. Okay. We are at late adulthood. This is the social section. So ego integrity versus despair is Erickson's final stage of his 8 stages. And basically, when they look back on life, is the person happy with their life? And Erickson says if they are, then they will continue to live a fulfilled life until they die. People who don't, they look back on their life and they're dissatisfied with their life. They're angry, they're depressed, they're despondent because they can't really do anything to change it. They tend to die a grumpy, argumentative, sad man or woman. So when we talk about the different theorists, there are different theorists, of course, at each age group. And in this group, of course, there's no one particular person who stands out. So we're going to talk about Peck. Peck basically says that there are three primary tasks that have to occur during this time period. First, that redefinition of ourself versus what we did as a job. That can be very hard for people when they retire to separate themselves from a job, especially if it's the job they've been working for 30 plus years. They may have defined themselves based on that job. The second stage would be body transcendence, um, realizing and recognizing that your body's getting older. You know, the hair is getting grayer, the muscles aren't as strong, you get wrinkles, age spots, skin gets thinner and creepy. So recognizing that's happening to you and not spending your entire life thinking about that to deal with your changes of your body. And then ego transcendency, I can't say that word today, versus ego preoccupation. Um, Getting beyond just ourselves. You know, what do we want to do now? What are we going to experience? Who we are, and realizing that, yes, we are going to die. We all do. So when we talked about last week in class, the end of life, like 120 is basically the limit of the human body. Now, most people aren't going to get to 120 years. So once you get above the 65 to 75, you start realizing, okay, life will end. And how do I want my last years to carry me through? Livingston, if you remember, his was the seasons. And when we talk about the seasons now, this would be the winter of life, that last stage. Typically, the transition is between 60 and 65. People begin to struggle again with being old. Not only the physical features, but in our culture, in Western society, an independent type culture versus the collective cultures, a loss of power, don't have the same respect you had before, may not have the authority anymore. And struggling with that can be very hard. You can serve as advisors for young workers or young people, your own family, grandchildren, great-grandchildren. And of course, this age, if you retire, can also bring a lot of freedom and fun and entertainment that you couldn't do before because you were working one or two jobs. Garden study on coping and aging. Again, there are four types according to this study for people in their 70s that, and they go in order from more difficult to the best you can be here. Uh, Disintegrated and disorganized, not being happy with your life, not being happy with how your body is changing, your role in society, etc. Passive dependent, you lose a lot of your power and your control. Um, you kind of lay back and let people make the decisions for you. You're not necessarily happy with that, but that's what's going on. You don't feel like you have any power. Defended personalities, this is a little better. You're organizing yourself and you realize what you like and what you don't like, and you're able to transition into this time period and realize, okay, I might not be able to play tackle in the turkey bowl that we play for the family after Thanksgiving because I'm going to end up being in a lot of pain or might break something, but I'm still going to participate in some way. And then integrated persons would be the best. This type of personality is they've integrated their age in with their life and everything that they will do in their life. So that's the best out of the four. When we talk about that life review, that means looking back on our lives, again, making judgments if it was good or bad. There, again, Erickson, Peck, Newgarden, and Livingston. Um, these are, uh, key players in the psychological research. But we also have Robert Butler, who talks about being aware of impending death. And we're going to hold his work till next week because we're going to spend the entire lecture on death and dying. So let me scooch off of here just for 1 second. Okay, let's continue. So one of the common themes that we see is trying to understand, our own life, what we did, why we did it, if there are still problems that we have to deal with, to come up with maybe some solution or at least a plan on how to address those problems. We recognize people in our lives that we share our life, our work, our actions, our friendship, etc. And doing this, looking back over our life can actually improve our long-term memory. The bad things that can happen with a life review is you may say, hey, my life wasn't that good. I made some mistakes, and you can become depressed and you can become angry or you feel guilty. And sometimes it can take that psychological role that it actually, if it's negative, can make you step back and possibly more than one step, a couple steps back before you can realize that, okay, you need to move forward. You can't live in the past. So as we get older in our culture, power and prestige has eroded. Young people are far removed from their elders, so many times they feel like they're unimportant. Technology can help individuals feel out of place and out of date. Many elderly people may have a phone, but it may be a flip phone, something easy to use. So that loss of status and loss of, you know, in a job that you've been there for 30 some years and you were the supervisor, all of a sudden that status is gone. So in less industrialized cultures, third world countries, the Asian community, the Native American community, elders are viewed more positively because of their traits of wisdom. So, what is wisdom? Well, there's a difference between wisdom and intelligence. Wisdom is more timeless. Knowledge is what you know at the moment. You know, book smarts, street smarts, that's knowledge. Wisdom is timeless. It's something that you develop and you can earn as part of living a long life. Intelligence permits logical thinking. Wisdom is difficult to put a framework on, like it doesn't fit nicely in a nice square box. Okay. Research does show that older individuals do use a more sophisticated theory of mind. In other words, they can draw from all their resources,